People think in two different ways, subjective and objective. And the way we think makes a huge impact on our relationships, our statements that we make during a conflict, and our decision making. And in order to explain what a subjective thinking is and what an objective thinking is, I'm going to use two different lenses, a subjective lens and an objective lens. The subjective lens is this one. So when I'm going to wear this lens, I'm going to think subjective and I'm going to make subjective statements. And when I'm going to wear this lens, I'm going to talk objective. Okay, so this is just a fun activity. After I explain you what subjective and objective statements are, I'm going to make some examples by wearing both of the lenses and making objective and subjective statements for you people to understand. Hi, my name is Kaushik Chaki, and in this video, I'm going to talk about subjective thinking and objective thinking and what's the difference between them with respect to workplace situations and scenarios. And let's start right away. Okay, to start with, let me first explain the factors that helps us sense or understand things. Number one is our eyes. Now our eyes are through which we see things. Number two is our nose, through which we smell things. Number three is our tongue, through which we taste things. And number four is our hands or our fingers, through which we can touch and feel things. So these are the four factors which help you make decisions after you have experienced a specific thing. And this actually helps you in office. Now, the next one is our ears, through which we listen. Next is our heart. Our heart is from where we feel things. We construct various different opinions. And in a lot of cases, we get biased because of something or the other. That's the hard part. So whatever you see from your eyes, you smell from your nose, you taste from your tongue, or you touch from your hand. All of these things help you construct objective thinking. And your heart helps you construct subjective thinking. Now, the one thing that comes in between both objective and subjective is your ears. Now, why am I saying this? Generally, if you see other videos, people would put ears in objectivity or objective thinking. But when I'm talking about workplace, there are a lot of cases where there would be a person who's good to you, but the person might not be good enough with another person. They might have some conflict. And then the other person comes to you and gossips about person A, who as per you was okay. There was no quarrel, no conflict. And as per you, the person was good. But when you start hearing negative about person A from person B, there are chances that you might start constructing a biasness or an opinion or a feeling that can be negative about person A. Now that's because someone is trying to manipulate your thinking. So in this case, your thinking would again change into a subjective thinking. So what I'm trying to say is, these are the data points. All the things that is mentioned here, that would help you gather data which you can interpret to think in an objective manner, where you do not use your emotions. Your emotions would be here, the subjective one, where you feel things, you make opinion about things, or you get biased about things. It can be things, it can be people, it can be organization, it can be anything that you start thinking about. So, objective thinking is always thinking along with the facts, the data that you have, without any personal opinion. And subjective thinking always has personal opinion, personal taste, personal feelings, personal experiences attached with it. So, I hope you're clear with what an objective thinking is and what a subjective thinking is. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start with the fun part of this video. This is a lens. This is an objective lens. And this, my friends, is a subjective lens. Whenever I make a situation, I would be wearing both the lenses. And these statements would help you understand subjective thinking and objective thinking. So, situation number one. Your boss has given you a task. and he has given you 1 day to complete that task. Just think about a report that he has given you. So now what happens is, you take the task, you accept the challenge and you start doing it. And after some time, you realize that, this specific report, it needs advanced Excel, which I've never used before. So I'll have to learn it first and then I'll be implementing the learning. Now this process required an extra bit of time, because of which you could not complete the project or the report in 1 day. The second day, your boss comes in front of everyone and starts shouting in front of everyone that, you know what, you're bad at time management. You could not complete the task that I'd given you in a deadline. And he then goes away. So now what would be your reaction? Reaction number 1, my boss doesn't has that etiquette to talk with people. He is a mad person. He doesn't know how to speak. He doesn't understand how to talk in front of people. Now that's subjective. Reaction number 2, the objective reaction. Okay, my boss got angry because he had given me a deadline. That means he actually required that report very badly, and I could not give him that report. So yes, he is angry on me, but I don't think so he's bad. He just wanted that report. He is angry, and that is the reason he is giving this reaction. So that's a way of thinking objective. Example number 2. An employee working in your team comes late for the past 2 days. So on the third day, you connect with that person, you empathize with that person, and you ask him to come on time on the next day. And guess what? He's late. So what would be your reaction? How would you think this time? Reaction number 1, subjective reaction. Okay, he is always late. Even after having a sweet talk with him, he's still late. So why does he has to come with his own vehicle? Why does he has to drive his own car, or why does he has to ride his own bike? Can't he just take the metro? It would be easier, it would be faster for him. That is subjective. Now, let me go for an objective one. Okay, so he's still late today. So what I'm going to do is, today I'm going to sit with him and try to understand. I'm going to ask him, what is specifically the reason which is why he's getting late? Is it because of the travel? Is it because of some other reasons? Maybe some family issues or some personal issues that you would like to share? So let me just ask and try to fit in some solutions that would help him out. So in this case, what you did is reaction number 1, subjective reaction or subjective thinking. Before even understanding the facts, you made your own opinion. You made your own feelings with respect to your experiences. Because maybe you have a bike or you have a car and you might have got late because of the traffic once or twice. But in the case of the employee who's working under you, it might not be the case. It might be some other reasons. So until and unless you do not understand why he's getting late, you do not know the reason, you're subjective if you are reacting. So let him come, sit down, and if you have a conversation, and then you would be taking the right decision. That is the objective decision. Example number 3. You meet with a new customer or a client and everything is going well. Suddenly the customer gets angry and he just stands up and walks away. So the subjective reaction. Okay, he was just wasting my time. He just wanted to come and sit because, maybe he's on a date and his date is late. So he just came into the store and just was passing his time. That was subjective. How about an objective reaction? Was there something that I said which may have hurt his feelings? I'm not sure what happened, but I was giving some examples, and I was giving examples where I was making him the subject. So maybe I said something about his culture, maybe I said something that he didn't like. I'm not sure what happened, but he just got angry and he just walked away. So what you're doing here is you're not making a judgment here. You're just keeping it open because you're not sure. You do not have the required data to make that judgment, to think that way, right? So in the subjective way, when I was wearing this lens, you made your own opinion about the customer and you just went away. But in the objective way, you have just kept it open. Maybe the customer would come back and maybe then he would see, okay, there was something urgent, that's the reason I had to leave, something or the other. So you're not making your judgments. So you're not thinking without facts. So this is what objectivity is. Objective thinking means always sticking to the facts, sticking to the data, trying to interpret all the data around you and then thinking about it. Now that helps you make objective decisions as well. Your decisions would always be foolproof or else at least be on the right path. And if you think subjective, you just think from your opinion, your heart or your instincts and your guts. Now instincts and guts are good at a level, but it should always be backed up with the data that you have. Now I won't say that you should never think subjective at office or at workplace. You may think subjective as well, but whenever there is a decision that you have to make, whenever there is a protocol that you have to follow, whenever there is a process that you need to implement, always try to think in an objective manner. If you need to take a decision about a person, maybe when you're hiring someone, never be biased. Maybe you are hiring a girl who looks like your girlfriend or your sister, or maybe you're hiring a lady who looks like your mother or who talks like your mother. Never be biased. If you're doing that, if you're hiring a person because of your biasness, that means you are taking a subjective decision. You're thinking subjectively and then you're making that decision. And you're hiring someone with regards to his or her merits, the data that represents his behavior, maybe adaptability, creativity, innovation, whatever specifically required in that job, loyalty, honesty, faithfulness, whatever required. And if you're hiring according to that data, when you ask a few questions and you get the right answers, and then you're hiring that person, that means you're taking an objective decision. You're thinking objective and your decisions are also objective. And always remember, subjective thinking would lead to subjective decisions, which would be short term. And objective thinking would lead to objective decisions, which would always be long term. So always remember this fact. I hope I have cleared a little bit of doubt of yours, maybe what subjectivity is, what objectivity is. If you like this video and the concept, please do hit that like button. Also, don't forget to share in the comments what is your way of thinking. Is it objective? Is it subjective? Now I understand, every time you cannot be objective, every time you cannot be subjective. So my question to you is, at workplace, how much percent of thinking is objective and how much percent is subjective? So for example, for me, when I was working, my decisions would be around 70% objective and 30% subjective. That 30% is that friend circle or that colleagues who are very close to me. So I used to think about them. I used to get biased about them. So 30% subjective and 70% objective. Similarly, what is your percentage ratio? Do let me know in the comment section. And also, if you want me to create another video on tips on how to become objective, do let me know. This would help you. Objective thinking, objective decision making helps you even if you are a leader, even if you are just an employee or a fresher who just joined in. It would help you with conflict resolution as well, with people who are working under you, with people who are working at your own designation, people who are working above you, seniors, juniors, everyone, even with your boss. So that's the reason objective thinking is way much important than subjective thinking at workplace. So that's all from my end. Thank you so much. This is Kaushik Jackie signing up.